Hi, I'm Steph. I'm at Starry Steph, and I think you all should read The Buffalo Hunter Hunter by Stephen Graham Jones.
Hi, my name is Zach at Books That Slay, and an Indigenous book that I would recommend is The Only Good Indians by Stephen Graham Jones.
Hi, I'm Aubrey from Earl Grey Please. The Indigenous book I recommend is The Only Good Indians by Stephen Graham Jones, or Bad Cream by Jessica Jones, or Never Was a Night.
Hi, I'm Priyanka. My username is Priyanka D. Wright, and an Indigenous book I would recommend is Weird Fishes by Ray Marie.
I am Alex at Cemetery Gay, and the Indigenous book I'm going to recommend is specifically A Shadow Crown from the Broken Blade series, or the Halfling Saga. It is phenomenal.
Hi, I'm Amivi at Amivi Reads, and an Indigenous book that I would recommend is A Broken Blade and the whole series because I love it so much.
Sarah, if Sarah read that, and I will always recommend Broken Blade by Melissa Blair. Read it immediately.
Hi, I'm Sarah. Sarah's Book Stacks on the internet, and an Indigenous book that I love that you should read is To Shape a Dragon's Breath by Monoquill Black Goose.
Ray from @Ray the Reviewer, and an Indigenous book I would recommend is The Summer of Bitter and Sweet by Jen Ferguson.
Hi, my name is Maya. I'm at Eminem Books on Instagram and at Maya Reads on TikTok. And an Indigenous book I recommend is Fry Bread.
Jacob at a Very Queer Book Club, and an Indigenous book I would recommend is A Lot's Away by Darcy Little Badger.
Rachel Sky Reads, and my Indigenous book recommendation is Firekeeper's Daughter by Angeline Booley. She's from Michigan, as am I.
I'm Emma. You can find me at Emma Skies, and I will always recommend My Heart is a Chainsaw by Stephen Graham Jones. I cried so much I almost had to pull over when I was driving.
Hi, I'm Bailey at Greek Choir, and an Indigenous book that I recommend is A Broken Blade by Melissa Blair.
I'm Maddie Niss from my name is Maddie Niss, and I recommend Son of a Trickster by Eden Robinson.
Hi, I'm Ashanti at Ashanti Reads, and my Indigenous book rec is Ceremony by Leslie Soko.
My name is Seth at Drama King Books on all socials, and my favorite Indigenous book is The Truth According to Ember by Danica Nava, and I cannot wait for her next book, Love is a War Song.
I'm Emma at the Ace of Books, and I highly recommend The Marrow Thieves.
Hello, I am Joshua from Joshua's_space, and today I realized that I don't read a lot of Indigenous books. I was posed the question, what's my favorite Indigenous book, and I honestly could not think of one. I know Firekeeper's Daughter, which I own, but I haven't read it yet. And especially after getting these two bingo cards showing so many different Indigenous authors and books, I have not read any from these lists. And I do try to read diversely, and I do read diversely, but I also think it ends up being in very specific ethnicities, and it's not a full spectrum, and so that's something that I think a lot of people should really consider and think about. And so I'm very happy to have these bingo cards. You should check them out, and I will be doing my best to get a bingo with at least one of these this year.
Michael LeBourne. My username is Michael.LeBourne, and I would recommend any book that Naomi publishes with her bindery imprint.